Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy. In today's video, I'm bringing you guys a 12-team PPR mock draft from the first overall spot on fantasyfootballcalculator.com. In this video, we are going to be going over my thought process throughout the draft at the #1 overall spot and my overall thought process of what's going on in the draft. Do I like certain picks? Do I dislike them? Now, the video is going to go by relatively fast because it's just me and someone drafting at the 12th spot, so we will be going slightly fast, but at the end of the video, I break down a lot of the other picks going on around the draft, so if you guys want a full breakdown of my opinion on a lot of players going on inside of this draft, please make sure that you stay tuned all the way to the end of this video. If you guys are new to my channel and want more fantasy football content, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out fantasy football content, NFL draft content, regular NFL content every single day. So if you guys do end up enjoying, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. I would really appreciate it. So let's get into it. So the draft will begin. I am the first overall pick in the draft. I'm going to go with Christian McCaffrey here at this point. Now, right now as I'm recording this, Christian McCaffrey has not been traded to the Houston Texans to get Deshaun Watson in that huge trade that's allegedly supposed to happen. If that ends up happening and Christian McCaffrey is gone from the Carolina Panthers, then you don't draft him at the 101. Then I feel a little bit more comfortable with Dalvin Cook at that spot. But based upon right now, if Christian McCaffrey is a Carolina Panther, I really like him a whole ton for 2021. The guy was dropping 30 points a game when he was healthy, so I feel like he's going to be back in that spot as the #1 overall back going off in tons of fantasy football leagues. There will be leagues where Kamara gets drafted ahead of him, or Dalvin Cook. Some leagues will even have Derrick Henry drafted first, but it's really just a pick your poison this year. I feel like there's not really a guaranteed 101 like last year. It was really Christian McCaffrey in every league. After I drafted Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara came out the board, followed by Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Adams, Travis Kelce, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, Austin Eckler, Tyreek Hill, Pat Mahomes, Ezekiel Elliott, Ron Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, DK Metcalf, Stephon Diggs, James Robinson, Josh Jacobs, George Kittle, Darren Waller, Michael Thomas, and Calvin Ridley. Notice 3 tight ends have went in the first 2 rounds, which may end up happening come August. I feel like Travis Kelce, though, definitely going to potentially be a top 8 pick in every single league. So we are through our first pick. We have Christian McCaffrey. The running backs are looking pretty solid here. So I think we're going to go with a wide receiver and running back combo here on the turn. I think it's very important to get at least 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds, at least in recent years, due to the scarcity at the running back position. So we're going to go running back here, and it is a little early, but I'm going to snag Justin Jefferson. I think he's going to have yet another good year in back-to-back seasons where he really ends up tearing it up for the Minnesota Vikings. I think Kirk Cousins is just fine enough to be able to get him to produce at a very good rate. So now we're back up on the board again for a running back, and I do like DeAndre Swift a whole bunch for the Detroit Lions. I think J.K. Dobbins is ranked really low on here compared to where he's going to get drafted come draft day, so I'm happily going to select J.K. Dobbins here. The Baltimore Ravens are a very run-heavy team in the NFL, and if I'm able to snag a guy like J.K. Dobbins, who is going to get tons of rushes on a very run-effective team in the Baltimore Ravens, I feel very comfortable in that as my 3rd-round pick, especially since I already have Christian McCaffrey. So if Gus Edwards is more involved than I previously thought, I'm not as mad, and J.K. Dobbins will obviously have his games even if that happens, just like last year. After J.K. Dobbins came DeAndre Swift, followed by Keenan Allen, Miles Sanders, I should say, A.J. Brown, Joe Mixon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson, Allen Robinson, David Montgomery, and Mike Evans. Now, we are drafting with someone. I did put this link on Twitter. I'm not too sure if this is someone that watches my videos. Shout out to them if it is. Now, they went with a very interesting approach to the beginning of the draft, snagging one of each position, 1 quarterback, 1 running back, and 2 wide receivers. That's a very interesting strategy. Personally, I'm not all about drafting a quarterback early, but it seems like this guy has it figured out, and actually his team is looking pretty solid, even with drafting Patrick Mahomes in the 1st round. After he went with Terry McLaurin, Julio came out the board, followed by Kyler Murray, Amari Cooper, Chris Carson, Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, Adam Thielen, Kareem Hunt, and Mark Andrews. So now we already have 2 running backs on our team, so I'm comfortable diving off of the running back position here, but actually, I'm still going to snag a running back here because I think that Najee Harris, if he falls to the correct team in the NFL draft, will be very much worth that draft selection there inside of the 4th round. Him and Travis Etienne, who I talked about in yesterday's video, my top prospects at the running back position for the NFL draft, if you want to check that out. I talk a whole bunch about Najee Harris and how I really like him, and if he finds the right landing spot, that guy is going to be a menace in fantasy football. I like Robert Woods here inside of the 5th round. Robert Woods now getting Matthew Stafford as his starting quarterback, which I think is a huge step up from Jared Goff. And Robert Woods even ate with Jared Goff. So after Robert Woods came Kenny Bones, Kenny G, Chris Godwin, CeeDee Lamb, Myles Gaskin, Deontay Johnson, Ronald Jones, Dak Prescott, Raheem Mostert, Kenyon Drake, and Justin Herbert. In this league, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of the 12 teams have already drafted a quarterback, and 4 teams already have a tight end. Now, in every single league, the quarterbacks are going to come off at a different rate. In some leagues, in a more amateur league, there's going to be a lot of people drafting quarterbacks in the 1st round. There may be 3 quarterbacks going off inside of the 1st or 2nd round. In some other leagues, you're going to be playing with people who are less early quarterback trained, and they're more on the late round quarterback, and then you're seeing people wait until like the 4th, 5th round before Patrick Mahomes comes off the board. So it's really different based upon who you are in a league with. After Justin Herbert came Melvin Gordon and Leonard Fournette, followed by Russell Wilson, Dave Montgomery, Aaron Rodgers, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Boyd, Tyler Lockett, Will Fuller, OBJ, TJ Hawkinson, and Chase Claypool. Interesting to see what happens with Odell this season. If he ends up getting moved off of the Cleveland Browns, even then I'm not too sure I'm going to be looking for him, but hey, you never know. Here in the 6th round is where I like to make my typical A.J. Dillon pick. Now, I don't think A.J. Dillon will be worth much of anything if his teammate Aaron Jones ends up re-signing, but what I've seen seems like PFF is projecting him to be a Miami Dolphin, which means that A.J. Dillon is going to have a stranglehold of this backfield, which would be very good for A.J. Dillon's fantasy productions, and he'd probably go from a 6th round pick to being like a 3rd or 2nd round pick come draft day in August. Right now, the wide receiver position is looking very juicy. Tight ends, not so hot. I'd rather just continue to wait. So at wide receiver, we have DJ Chark likely with Trevor Lawrence, Brandon Ayuk in that system. I like DJ Moore a lot to have a much better season than he had last year, and his season was low-key very good, even though he did not return on the investment that I thought he would end up doing in 2020 with Teddy Bridgewater, because Teddy Bridgewater loves Robbie Anderson, but there are reports of that trade for Deshaun Watson, and if that happens, DJ Moore is going to fly to the fucking moon in fantasy football drafts, legitimately, because that makes Deshaun Watson to DJ Moore a deadly combo, especially since CMC would be out of the picture in that situation. After DJ Moore comes Brandon Ayuk, followed by Tampa Bay Tom Brady. Tom Brady went a little early ahead of guys like, no, actually, that's not early. That's a lie. There's always going to be the narrative that Tom's too old to produce as a top 10 quarterback, top 12 quarterback. He's going to be quarterback 12 for me, just like his number probably every single year until the guy retires, because there's just such a high chance that he just balls the fuck out every single year and plays decent. After Tom Brady came DJ Chark, Todd Gurley, James Conner, Juju Smith-Schuster, Robbie Anderson, T. Higgins, Deebo Samuel, Cortland Sutton, and AB to close out the 7th round into the 8th round with Jerry Jeudy, Devin Singletary, Noah Fant, Hunter Henry, J.D. McKisson, Titties, Chase Edmonds, Brandon Cooks, Naheem Hines, Jalen Hurts, Damian Harris, and Joe Burrow. So everyone has a quarterback except for me. That team has 2 quarterbacks, and that's going to happen in some leagues here. Looking at the wide receiver position, nothing looking too sexy right now. So we're going to go ahead here and snag a guy that I'm going to be loving to draft in 2021 fantasy football drafts. The San Francisco 49ers backfield is amazing, and if you're able to snag one of these guys and they end up becoming the guy in that 49ers backfield, you are going to be very happy that you selected them inside of the 8th round. So now we're going to hop back onto the wide receiver train. Now, I am a bit worried because there are teams taking backup quarterbacks. Everyone has a quarterback. Now, if someone didn't take a backup quarterback, I wouldn't be as scared. But in this scenario where people are starting to take backup quarterbacks, I'm going to go ahead and reach up and grab one of my guys. I love Stafford for the LA Rams. We already have who did we draft? We drafted Robert Woods. I wasn't sure if we drafted Woods or Cooper Kupp. Woods and Stafford, we get that pairing. Now, you don't necessarily have to draft like that. I don't even look to necessarily draft like that, but I really think Stafford is going to be insane on the LA Rams. He was good on the Lions, and the Lions were a dumpster fire. The Rams are actually good, and this was a good pick because teams started snagging backup quarterbacks after this. After I went with Matty Snapback, Ryan Tannehill came out the board, followed by Devontae Parker, Matt Ryan, Jarvis Landry, Hollywood, Brown, Rob Gronkowski, Mike Evans, Tony Pollard. Steelers defense, Evan Ingram. And then we are waiting on this gentleman or lady's pick. Now, the Steelers defense, do not be the asshole who picks a defense early on in the draft. What you're going to want to do is wait until later when the NFL schedule comes out, and you want to draft a defense playing up against a not-so-hot offense week 1, and that's how you really dominate, by streaming the defensive position. I put out videos every single week during the season on which defenses to add, so make sure you hit that subscribe button down below if you want to win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. It's that easy. All you got to do is subscribe and then listen. After Evan Ingram came Latavius Murray, followed by Alexander Madison. The Rams defense, Jamison Crowder, Laviska Shenault, Hayden Hurst, Corey Davis, Tariq Cohen. Baltimore defense, Jamal Williams, Michael Gallup, T.Y. Hilton, and now we are back up on the board. I did really want to snag Gronk, but as of right now, I feel like this is a very good tight end pick here, Dallas Goedert. Unless the Dirty Birds, the Eagles, end up drafting the Dirty Birds of the Falcons. But if the Eagles ended up drafting Kyle Pitts, then this pick is completely awful. But based on right now, I'm not too sure what the Eagles are going to do at their pick. Do they end up drafting a new quarterback? Do they draft Trey Lance? Do they potentially get Justin Fields if he falls, Zach Wilson, or do they stick with Jalen Hurts? It's very interesting to think about, and that's why if I'm doing drafts right now, I'm really fading Jalen Hurts because I kind of have no idea what to think about that situation. So now we are back up on the clock here, and we are going to snag a handcuff running back to my running back that I drafted early on in J.K. Dobbins. I don't necessarily tell people to draft handcuff running backs. I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes there's other people's handcuffs that you'd rather draft, because I'd rather have fucking Tony Pollard in a lot of situations, even if I don't have Zeke, because I know if Zeke goes down, Pollard is going to be putting up some big numbers, but Gus Edwards is in a perfect situation for success in Baltimore, given J.K. Dobbins was to go down. We have J.K. Dobbins, so we're good either way in a very run-heavy system. We're going to go ahead and recap the rest of the picks after this, because now we are back up on the board, and I don't want to waste all 40 seconds of my clock kind of going over that. So we do have 3 rounds left, or 4 rounds left, I should say. Yeah, 4 rounds left. I just did quick math on my fingers. That's how smart I am when it comes to quick mathematics. So I'm going to go ahead here and snag James White. Now, actually, we only have 3 wide receivers. We're definitely going to have to get at least another wide receiver. I do like Marvin Jones a lot, but we don't know what team he is going to be on. So I'm going to snag Jules. We don't know who his quarterback's going to end up being, but Julian Edelman is typically a wide receiver 1. Now, that was with Tom Brady. He didn't play all that great this year, but Cam was kind of bad. Julian Edelman got hurt. So maybe this year, if they bring in a legitimate quarterback, we could be seeing big things out of Julian Edelman again, just like we did back in the day. So now we're going to go ahead and snag probably another running back and wide receiver. Actually, we only have 1 pick left that's not a kicker and a defense. So we're going to go ahead and snag another wide receiver here to make sure we balance out our roster. Typically, it's better to have either the same amount of running backs and wide receivers, or 1 more running back than wide receivers on our roster. But based on right now, we're not too sure who the starting running backs are going to end up being based upon that. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Marvin Jones here of the Detroit Lions. Now, I don't think he's going to be a Detroit Lion when the season starts, because it seems like he wants out of Detroit. But again, that's not why I'm drafting him because he's a Detroit Lion. I'm drafting him because I think he's an excellent wide receiver too on whatever team signs him. I'm just going to talk a little bit here, and then we're going to go over the picks that I ended up missing earlier by just talking about them slightly after I make these next couple of picks. Now I'm going to need a kicker and a defense. Again, for the defense, you really are just going to want to wait until you can see what defense is playing who week 1. You just draft the defense playing the easy opponent week 1. The guy playing in the past, it was like, who the fuck's playing against Jameis Winston? I want that defense because I'm going to get some picks. So we're going to go with the Chiefs defense here in this scenario. Why? Because they were the highest ranked. And for kicker, I will be posting kicker rankings so you guys can check those out later in August. So for now, we're going to go with third leg, Greg the Leg Zuerlein. So to recap, after we messed up earlier on in the draft, everyone with Gus Bus Edwards, Marlon Mack came off the board, followed by Phillip Lindsay, Darrell Henderson, Cole Beasley, Indianapolis Colts defense, Zach Moss, Taysom Hill, Henry Ruggs, Le'Veon Bell, Logan Thomas, Zach Ertz, Michael Pittman, Christian Kirk, Big Ben Roethlisberger, Sterling Shepard, Washington defense, Curtis Samuel, Justin Tucker, the fucker, Benny Snell, Niners defense, my boy Tua Tagovailoa, Wayne Gallman, and then I went ahead and drafted on the turn Julian Edelman, followed by Marvin Jones. After that was John Brown. Buffalo defense, Baker Mayfield, Jonnu Smith, Alan Lazard. Miami defense, who I love, obviously, as a Dolphins fan, Darius Slayton, Salvin Ahmed, Darrell, here comes the Monet, Giovanni Bernard, who I don't even think will be a Raven. A Raven. What did he say? Cincinnati Bengal come next season. Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, my old bitch Lane, but my young Hoku. A bunch of defenses and kickers. In there is Kirk Cousins, you like that. Robert Tonyan, Jerick McKinnon, Tyler Higbee, James White, Mike Williams, and Nelson Aguilar. And the final pick of the draft was Derek. Get in the car. Derek, send in the car, something that the fantasy footballers used to say. I've not watched them in a little bit of time, but maybe you guys, big fans of them. Shout out to them. Those are some very nice guys in the fantasy football industry. So to kind of recap some picks that I found to be very interesting in this draft, one that I really like, again, right here, Tom Brady in the 7th round. Now, I'm not a big draft a quarterback early guy, but he was quarterback 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's some good value. I mean, Tom Brady was very good last year, and it wouldn't surprise me if he was really good again. I understand that there's always going to be the Tom versus time narrative. When will the time get him over? When will he get too old? I don't think this motherfucker's ever going to get old, if I'm being honest with you guys. I just feel like this guy's like a Megatron, or like, not like Megatron the football player, but like a Decepticon, or I guess since they're evil, you know, Tom Brady's kind of an evil guy. Like a Decepticon, like a fucking robot, like the Terminator type deal. This guy is just going to always play, and I don't like Tom Brady. I'm a Dolphins fan. I've hated Tom Brady. I was happy to see the guy hammered at the Super Bowl parade. Tom Brady seems like a nice guy and all, but I mean, it's just crazy how long this guy's played, and he'll probably just ball out again in 2021. Some other interesting picks here. Hollywood Brown inside of the 9th round. Now, I actually think Hollywood will provide some value next season if they bring in a guy like Kadarius Toney. If they bring in a guy like Rondell Moore inside of the 1st round. They bring in literally anyone. Diami Brown. That is going to be available in the 1st round with their pick. If they don't pick a wide receiver, they don't bring in a wide receiver, then Hollywood Brown is going to continue to be pretty much useless because it's just going to be those streaky games. But I think if Lamar gets in the rhythm with these other good wide receivers that they could potentially bring in via the draft or free agency, then we could really see Hollywood Brown have a tremendous breakout season. But until then, I'm not really going to be touching him in drafts. I love Hayden Hurst. Loved him last year. Wasn't terrible. I mean, I was on board with him being like a top 5 guy. He was like a top 12 guy, which again isn't amazing, but at the value you can get him at again, I think Atlanta is still going to be a very high scoring team. Darrell Henderson is a very nice handcuff I like later in drafts. He showed that when he was the guy, when Cam Akers wasn't healthy early on in the season, when he wasn't given the opportunity, that he's good. So if Cam Akers was to go down, I really do like Darrell Henderson as a nice kind of handcuff. Big Ben is an interesting pick inside of the 12th round because who knows what's going to happen with Big Ben. It seems like this guy is going to lay the hammer down when it comes to putting so much money on the Steelers' plate. And there's nothing he can do about it because it's not like it's his fault. I mean, the team paid him that much money. It just kind of sucks for the Steelers. I also like this late round pick here. Robert Tonyan. Now, he's listed as a wide receiver on this website. He's really a tight end for the Green Bay Packers. If he falls that far down in drafts, I wouldn't even be looking for Dallas Goedert if I could get Tonyan, who had a very good string of games inside of last season. And it seems like the Packers are never going to bring in another wide receiver. It's just going to be Devontae Adams and a bunch of scrubs. So Robert Tonyan could really have an excellent next couple of seasons with Mr. Aaron Rodgers. Another interesting pick here inside of the 7th round, we have Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, there are reports, I reported on earlier on in the week that he was looking like he was going to be a Las Vegas Raider, but now it seems like he's going to go to the New York Football Jets, which is very interesting because we're not too sure who the Jets quarterback is going to be. Is it going to be Mono Man Sam? Is it going to be Jalen Hurts? Not Jalen Hurts. Is it going to be Justin Fields? Because Jalen Hurts is just on my mind because I've talked about him so much in the last week. If you guys want to check out my NFL mock draft, I'm getting clowned in the comment sections for saying that the Eagles might just draft a new quarterback. Again, I don't really know, but Justin Fields might be the quarterback there. Who really knows? So it's very interesting to see what'll happen for Juju if he ends up being a Jet. I'm probably running away from Jet Juju. Corvette, shout out to him. Chris Carson, likely not going to be re-signed by the Seattle Seahawks going in the 4th round, but could find home in a nice situation potentially in Pittsburgh. Maybe Miami would be a nice spot for Mr. Chris Carson. Another pick that's interesting, David Johnson. I mean, the guy lit it up week 1. This guy fucking bumfucked the Kansas City Chiefs and then didn't do anything like the rest of the season. He kept getting hurt. So I don't know what to think about David Johnson. Uncle Lenny Fournette, Henny Lenny, also went off in the 6th round. Interesting to see what happens there. Do they re-sign him? Because if they don't, Ronald Jones, who was drafted right here inside of the 5th round, would be a very, very good pick. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for you guys today. The mock drafts will get more interesting as the offseason goes on, as these trades happen. Deshaun Watson is just licking his lips, just fantasizing about where he's going to end up going. Like, we have no idea where he's going to end up going. So that's going to really shake up these drafts. Where does Deshaun Watson go now? What happens if he's like a Dolphin? Does he shoot up the board? Does he go past these guys? If he's a Jet, does he fall back further in the draft? Like, it's going to be very interesting to see, in my opinion, what people are doing when it comes with Deshaun Watson and his move from team to teams. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you all. I hope you guys have a great rest of your guys' Monday. Happy start to the week. Let's kill it all week long. I love you all. As always, good boy.